The United States is not a democracy. Who decides U.S. policy? Look closer, the fingerprints belong to a hidden hand. Ordinary Americans are told they live in a democracy. But the truth is darker, elections shaped by billion-dollar lobbies, presidents tied to foreign influence, military decisions made for interests beyond the American people. If your dollar is replaced, if your allies abandon you, if your democracy is exposed as an illusion, then what remains, the coming collapse will not be an event. Every empire believes it will last forever. Rome did, Britain did, and America. It tells the same story, but every empire also leaves behind ruins. Could America be next? The signs are everywhere. Look closely, China is not just building roads and railways. It is building influence, quietly buying ports, land, and resources across Africa, Asia, even Europe.
China has set its sights on South America. A new megaport on Peru's coastline that's part of China's Belt and Road Initiative will increase the frequency of trips to Asia this month, with a direct route to China that cuts sailing time by some 10 days. Ritika Gupta went to the megaport in Peru to find out more.
Russia, sanctioned and isolated, was expected to collapse. Instead, it expanded energy exports, signed new military deals, and strengthened ties with countries tired of Washington's dictates. Saudi Arabia, America's closest oil partner for decades, shocked the world by signing yuan-based oil deals with Beijing. For the first time, oil, the lifeline of global trade, bypassed the US dollar. India, once the proud symbol of Washington's democratic ally.
My friend! A friend of India, a great American president, Mr. Donald Trump.
Now buys Russian arms and trades in rupee. Turkey, a NATO member, openly defied the US by purchasing Russian S-400 missile systems. Imagine, a NATO ally arming itself with weapons designed to shoot down NATO aircraft. These are not isolated events. These are fault lines, cracks spreading across the empire's walls. And then came the BRICS summit in China. For decades, the world gathered in Washington to decide the future. But now, leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, joined by Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, sat at one table. And America wasn't even invited. For the first time, the unthinkable was spoken, a new currency, outside the US dollar system. If oil and gas begin trading in this new system, the dollar's supremacy. If America is still the leader of the free world, why is the world walking away? Because the problem is not just abroad. The truth is darker. America's greatest weapon collapses overnight. The empire's heart would stop beating. But here is the real question. America's enemies are not only in Beijing or Moscow, they are inside its own system. Hidden forces that decide elections, dictate wars, and control presidents. The United States is not a democracy. It is an oligarchy, ruled by a handful of elites, corporations, and foreign lobbies. A system where ordinary Americans believe their vote matters, but in reality, their leaders are chosen, funded, and controlled long before ballots are cast. Americans still refuse to see, the empire they live under is not a beacon of freedom, but a prison of hidden power. And in the next part, we will uncover those hidden hands. How Israel and Zionist lobbies decide who becomes president. How Trump himself admitted he had no choice but to declare loyalty. This is not speculation. This is evidence. And once you see it, you will never see America the same way again. Every democracy has voters. But in America, some votes are heavier than others. Some voices are louder than the people. Who decides US policy? Look closer, the fingerprints belong to a hidden hand. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, is one of the most powerful lobbying groups in Washington, spending millions to influence Congress and the White House. For decades, candidates from both parties have competed for AIPAC's approval, because without the financial support and media influence connected to pro-Israel networks, elections become nearly impossible to win. According to The Guardian, AIPAC and its affiliates have spent record amounts in the last election cycles to shape congressional races in favor of candidates aligned with pro-Israel policy. When Trump was questioned about his loyalty to Zionism, he declared openly, "I am the most pro-Israel president in history." This wasn't just political theater. In 2017, Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, defying decades of international consensus. Critics argue that U.S. military bases in the Middle East were never just about democracy or terrorism. They align strikingly with maps promoted by Israeli hardliners, often referred to as the Greater Israel Vision, stretching influence from the Nile to the Euphrates. U.S. wars in Iraq, presence in Syria, and pressure on Iran, all of these moves strengthened Israel's regional position while draining American blood and treasure. When a foreign lobby can decide who becomes president, when military strategy aligns with another nation's goals, and when citizens are locked out of real power, can you still call it democracy? Or is it something darker? Rome had emperors, Britain had monarchs, America calls it democracy. But in practice, decisions are made by lobbies, billionaires, and hidden interests. If your vote cannot compete with millions of lobby dollars, are you truly free? If foreign interests can dictate your wars, who really owns your future? What if the man who sits behind the Resolute desk is not a public servant, but a CEO? What if the White House becomes a branch office of his private empire? Look at the pictures. The skyscraper with the family name on it, the luxury resorts, the members-only club where world leaders and wealthy guests gather. These are not the trappings of a retired citizen. These are the assets of a global corporation, the Trump Organization. When Donald Trump took the oath of office in 2017, he promised to drain the swamp. But dozens of reporters, watchdogs, and federal investigators saw a different swamp, a tangle of business deals, foreign partners, and legal questions about whether the presidency and private profit can ever be separated. A global business empire never fully divested, Trump refused to sell the Trump Organization outright. Instead, he placed assets in a trust managed by his sons and executives, an arrangement that left many conflicts of interest unresolved.
There are increasing concerns tonight about what the president-elect could, would, or should do about a business empire that many feel creates a conflict of interest with his new job. Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry looks into that tonight.
Even as President-elect Donald Trump insisted he doesn't care about hotel occupancy rates or making any more money, he was defiant in an interview with the New York Times about not completely disengaging from his business empire.
The emoluments questions, foreign benefits to a U.S. president, multiple lawsuits, and reporting raised the issue that foreign governments and foreign officials were paying money to businesses that benefited the president, potentially violating the U.S. Constitution's emoluments clauses. Large foreign deals and gifts during presidency. On his first foreign trip as president, Trump visited Saudi Arabia and returned with headlines about billions in arms sales and commercial deals, moments when state visits overlapped with business opportunities for the Trump brand.
Second term, and they spent the better part of the day together, from ceremonial coffees and teas, an extended luncheon, meetings with business leaders on investments, and concluding the day with a smaller and more intimate state dinner at a UNESCO heritage site here in Riyadh.
Investigation by major newspapers revealed that over years the Trump family reported unusual tax results, massive losses on paper that reduced tax liability, and complex international payments. In 2020, ProPublica and the New York Times published in-depth pieces about Trump taxes and income streams, publicly contested and legally complex. Why this matters for national power. Empires crumble when leaders use state resources for private gain. Rome fell when elites exploited public coffers. Britain's decline accelerated with mismanaged imperial costs and elite self-interest. If the American presidency becomes indistinguishable from a CEO's office, foreign policy will follow the money, not the national interest. Why are tens of thousands of American soldiers permanently stationed around the deserts of the Middle East, not on China's border, not staring at Russia, but encircling a tiny country the size of New Jersey? Look at the map. Ask who benefits. Look at a current map of U.S. military presence in the region. Bases ring Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the Persian Gulf, places that, on the surface, are about counterterrorism or securing shipping lanes. But critics ask a different question: why are these bases clustered in a way that protects one country in particular, Israel? Fact: the U.S. maintains a massive, permanent footprint in the Middle East. Bahrain hosts the U.S. Fifth Fleet. Qatar hosts Al Udeid Air Base. Bases in Iraq and Syria have been used to counter Iranian influence and secure oil fields. Now connect those facts to policy outcomes. decades of U.S. operations in Iraq and Syria removed or weakened regimes hostile to Israel. Sanctions and pressure on Iran have limited Tehran's regional influence. U.S. arms sales and diplomatic protection insulate Israel from international penalties.
Even without any military buildup, the United States has significant assets in and around the Gulf region. 5 Air Force expeditionary wings are based in the Gulf, 2 in Kuwait, 1 each in the UAE and Saudi Arabia that include squadrons of F-15 and F-16 fighter jets. The 5th Air Force Expeditionary Wing, based in Qatar, has no offensive capabilities of its own, but provides extensive intelligence and air refueling for Air Force units in the region. The number of air defense sites has grown over the last 18 months, with new ones built in Kuwait and a proposed site for an additional missile defense system in Qatar. The powerful US 5th Fleet is based in Bahrain in the Arabian Gulf. The Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group has its own air wing and fleet of accompanying ships.
Every empire believes the end is far away, until it isn't. Rome thought its legions were invincible. Britain thought the sun would never set on its empire, and America. It believes Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the Pentagon can protect it forever, but the cracks are already visible. Newspaper According to the U.S. Treasury, America's national debt has crossed $34 trillion. U.S. Treasury debt clock. This is not just numbers. It is the rope around the empire's neck. Allies are drifting. Saudi Arabia signs oil deals in yuan with China. Turkey buys weapons from Moscow. India chooses Russian energy over U.S. sanction. Ordinary Americans are told they live in a democracy. But the truth is darker. Elections shaped by billion-dollar lobbies. Presidents tied to foreign influence. Military decisions made for interests beyond the American people. This isn't democracy. It's dictatorship wearing a mask. And when citizens realize it, the system itself will shatter. So here is the question America cannot escape. If your dollar is replaced, if your allies abandon you, if your democracy is exposed as an illusion, then what remains? The coming collapse will not be an event. It will be a process, already underway, and by the time you understand it, it will already be too late.